The government of the United Arab Emirates has finally lifted visa restrictions imposed on Nigerians with immediate effect. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, made this known to State House correspondents last Monday after a meeting of the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Bola Tinubu. The minister disclosed that Nigerian passport holders can now travel to the UAE without any hindrance and asked Nigerians seeking information on the updated UAE visa conditions to visit documentverificationhub.ae for further details. Meanwhile, Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has been re-elected with 99.18% of the vote, extending his nearly 25-year rule. His opponents, Frank Habineza of the Democratic Green Party and independent Philip Mpayimana, conceded defeat in Monday's election. Rice Gross criticized the election for a crackdown on journalists, opposition, and the civil society, but the government denied these claims. The National Electoral Commission chair reported a voter turnout of 98.20% of the 9 million registered voters. Final results are expected by July 27th. I'm now being joined by good governance advocate and international affairs analyst, Dr. Victor Okhai. Good afternoon, and good to see you on This Day Live, Dr. Okhai.
Good afternoon, Dr. Abati. Nice to be here.
Well, very quickly, let's start with Rwanda. And the big question is longevity in leadership in Africa always a bad thing? Because the main concern is that, yes, Kagame came to power in 1994, ending the genocide. In 2000, he became president of Rwanda, and he's been in power since then. In 2015, he amended the constitution, which will give him the opportunity to remain in power till 2034. All the elections in which he has participated as president, he has been the favorite candidate, and he has always scored above 93%. In this election, he has beaten his own record, scoring 98.19%, even higher than the turnout figure of 98%. And he seems to be set to remain in power till 2034. But his longevity in itself a problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. I think it's a very important question to ask. Is longevity a problem? And if we're to go into history, in the recent past, I know that I was in school with some Libyans, and I do remember that they were among the most privileged members of the school, of the class, because they had all sorts of scholarships. I mean, in fact, you can call them the envy of other classmates. Libya was like a paradise at the time. And so what was the problem with Gaddafi? Was it that Libyans were complaining? Was it that Libya was not being ruled or managed properly? But you know, there are times when too much of a good thing can create a problem as well. And in this case, credit must be given to Kagame for stabilizing Rwanda. There's a whole generation that have only known Paul Kagame. And I think that what has helped him thus far is the fact that people are afraid of, they see the memories of the genocide are still present with the people, and the fact also that he has concentrated on bringing a lot of development. We'll have to admit that Rwanda today is like the conference capital of the world, and it's like a beautiful bride. Many countries are going there. The Emirates is going into business with their airline, and so many other opportunities that are coming to Rwanda. So while it may not spread generally, and quite frankly, because it's a country I know well, most of the development is in the capital, not in the outer regions. Everything you see is in Kigali. there comes a time when people will say enough is enough because they don't know any different, and so it might end up, resulting into a problem. We're not quite there yet, but when you begin to suppress opposition, not that opposition would have made any difference, quite frankly, right now, but when you begin to suppress opposition and you do not let them, or you selectively decide directly or indirectly who should contest and who should not contest, then there begins to become a growing dissent, and that could escalate. And you only need to make one mistake, and this will magnify it, and he might just find all his gains, tumbling down, as happened in Libya. Although Libya was influenced from outside, but obviously locally there was local support.
Okay, those young people who are about the age of 30, who have not known any other leader in Rwanda since Kagame came to power in 1994, they say Kagame is a very benevolent man. Access to electricity is 77%. When he took over power in 1994, life expectancy was 40. It's now 67. GDP per capita was $300. Now it's over 1,000. There is free primary school education, free secondary school education. All pregnant women in Rwanda have access to health care. Does that justify? Which is my question. The fact that Kagame can then say he's the only person who can lead Rwanda, and that the opposition, about 7 other aspiring presidential candidates were suspended. They were denied. They were bad, and even the 2, Kabineza got 0.5%. Mpanyamana got 0.2%. And it's Kagame and his allies dominating the parliament with over 60% of parliament. Does that make it good, no matter how benevolent a leader is?
Frankly, no. See, frankly, it doesn't, and I'll tell you why. The reason is that the hallmark of leadership is building successors. A good leader will train his successors who will take over and even do better than the leader. The hallmark of good leadership is laying a foundation, a solid foundation upon which, like a building, you can put a skyscraper and nothing would happen. It means putting in place systems that will work over time and sustain, the works and the gains that have been made. Now, that is a shortcoming on the part of Kagame, because to assume that, yes, is maybe benevolent, but I think you are shying away from using the word dictatorship. We may both leave it for now, but it is not too far away from it, from the way it is, So I don't think it justifies it. If democracy, if democratically you're supposed to run elections after every 6 years, after a couple of cycles, 1, 2 at the max, you should be able to have successors. If today anything were to happen to him, God forbid, is there a clear, successor? Would we not be going back to the days of, where we had the crisis from before? So there's no clear identifiable successor right now, and that creates a problem. If you see countries where there have been very strong leaders, like you had with Lee Kuan Yew, in Singapore, for instance, they have a clear succession plan. Even in China, where you might look and say, okay, they have very, very strong leaders as well. They have a clear succession plan. No matter how good you are, it's important to be able to have a very good succession plan so that if anything happens, the system will throw up a natural successor, and with the systems in place, you'll find that the country will be able to move to the next level.
Well, isn't there a paradox at the center of the politics in Rwanda? I mean, Western leaders who say they are pushing for democracy, they've been congratulating him, they've been praising him, the Western press is in support, isn't there a paradox there, or if you like, an irony, that they could support seat-tightism, because that's simply what Paul Kagame is doing, no matter how good he is.
Well, yes, I think the interesting thing is that with democracy and the West is, democracy for the West is interest. And that basically is what politics is. When people say, for instance, a politician is not principled, maybe because he jumps from one party to the other, they forget that the politician's only interest is where he can be to grab power to further his interests, either whether it's be personal interest or the interest of his community. In the same vein, the West will, for them, democracy is whatever government is in favor of their policies. As long as you don't rock the boat or disrupt their business and what they want from you, you can be there for as long as possible. We've seen leaders like Paul Biya of Cameroon. France is certainly not complaining. We saw a similar case until recently in, what do you call it now? Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal. As long as you don't rock the boat, that is democracy for the West, you know. So they can selectively, you know, decide which country is running democratically and which is not. And so they can turn a blind eye, and in some cases, you may be there for only one term, and a coup might be sponsored against you because you are working against the interests of the West. So I'm not surprised. Paul Kagame, no doubt, a very good leader. He has done very well by his people. We can't take that away from him. But the West will not complain because obviously he has remained a good boy. Although when he talks tough. He's very pro-African and all that. But in real terms, he hasn't rocked the boat.
Well, obviously the West is not bothered about his meddlesomeness in the politics of the Democratic Republic of Congo, where he is accused of being behind the instability in DRC. But let me ask you another subject.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that it is in the interest of the West for the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo to continue because, you know, the resources in that place, the day that country becomes stable, I think it's going to be one of the richest countries in the world. So as long as there's problem in that belt and any other mineral-rich region that allows for exploitation, I think that whoever can perpetuate it is a friend of the West. Go on with your question, please.
Anyway, the other question is about the United Arab Emirates. You recall that the United Arab Emirates in 2022 denied entry to Nigeria, Ghana, and 17 other countries. In the case of Nigeria, it was a case of reciprocity, landing rights, bilateral services, air services, agreement, and also some things about Nigerians behaving badly when they go to the UAE. Now, we're told they've lifted the ban. The part that concerns us is that of Nigeria, effective from July 15. But there's been so much controversy. Some people have said we'll have to pay $640,000 at an identification verification hub. And then that does not add up to the fees for visa. But the UAE authorities have said no. For you to get a visa, tourist visa, is between 60,000 and 90,000, and then you need health insurance. But the 640,000 naira part of it is unknown to the UAE government. But there's been some controversy. But I guess, should we jubilate that the UAE now says, oh, Nigerians, for whom Dubai is a major destination, can now egress in and out at will once they have been given visa?
Okay, so let me start with the 640,000. The embarrassing thing about that thing is that information came off the official handle of the Minister of Information, which was the mouthpiece of government, who really ought to know better. And it was most embarrassing until now. I've not, maybe, and I stand to be corrected, I've not heard any official retraction or apologies for that misinformation. An investigative journalist had, done a trace, gone to find out the source of that website, and then discovered that it had nothing to do with the government of the UAE, and good enough, the UAE government has already denied it. Should we be rejoicing? That's another thing. I think that we don't seem to realize our importance as, and I will repeat the word, and very deliberately too, as a giant of Africa. There are so many things that indeed make us giants, although we're Lilliputian in our attitude most of the time. First of all, we have the largest economy, or one of the largest economies on, what you call it now, on the continent. We have a huge population. Our people love traveling. When we go to Dubai, we go to spend. Most of the visits that you see people go to make in Dubai is really just to spend money, take money from Nigeria, hard-earned foreign exchange, to go there either for medical tourism or for other forms of tourism or sightseeing. And not only that, we patronize Emirates. The Basa agreement, I don't see how it favors Nigeria in any way. Even the little opportunity we had before now, we were thrown to one back airport where it's like, okay, look, and nobody would really want to go with the Nigerian airline that is even going that way, because the cost of even getting back to quote-unquote civilization within the UAE is another cost altogether. So I think that we need a government that will protect us, or those in government rather. Not sorry to say we need a government. The government is in place, but those in government should not really look at this and be rejoicing. We have diplomacy is about reciprocity. Whatever you do to me, I do back onto you. When the ban does, we should be able to ban them. If the Basa agreement doesn't favor us, it favors them more than it favors us. We stop them so that they benefit more, So, and imagine the amount of money that caused the row or fracas in the first place, about $85 million they said we were owing. I wish it was the Nigerian Airways Nigerian Airlines that were saying that was being owed that amount. Then we know we have made that kind of money, from Dubai, and that we're just waiting for that money to be repatriated. I imagine what that kind of money will do, in our economy. So I think that we should really hold our own, and there's nothing to really rejoice about. If I were in government or to advise government, it's okay, you've done your own. We will do things on our own terms right now. You may have lifted it. We will now decide how we want to come back and what our own terms are going to be. And so that people begin to know not to take us, for granted. I just think that they bluffed, and we should have called off their bluff, but we did not. There are alternative routes. There are so many places we can go to. Dubai, yes, they have oil, but the truth is that they have since diversified their economy, something we've not been able to do, to make tourism the biggest part of the economy right now. And so tourism, whether we like it or not, every little dollar, every single dollar counts. And it will hurt them more than it hurts us, even though they struck first. On the issue of Nigerians going there misbehaving, I think that every country, and I say this, every country has a right to, police within its territory people that come there. And they have the capacity to do that in the UAE. And so, let me give you an example, for instance. Today, Kenya, and I think Rwanda certainly, and I think Kenya, I don't know which other, maybe one or two others, have decided any African can come, and they have, it's visa-free, in the spirit of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Has that made that place a place where people, Rwanda is doing very well now, but has that made Nigerians rush into that place? Because if you go there, there's rule of law. Every street, if you go to Kigali, just as you move, you feel eyes watching you, because you can see policemen or
Dr.
you know, security forces
the other way,
at various corners.
the other way to
watching.
interpret that is to say Kigali, Rwanda
Yes.
is a police state. I've been there twice. It's a police state. Don't say
Okay, exactly.
Because every short
Yes,
distance,
yes.
you will see policemen staring at you.
You will see them.
Just
you
say
will
it's
see
a
them.
police state.
Exactly. It is, let's be honest, it is. You know? So they have devised their own means. And so I think it behoves every country to be able to do the same. When you say open borders and you open up, not a problem. But when people come in, from the moment you come in, you're profiled and you're monitored. It's like we have such a system in Nigeria that is never practiced. And as you would know, you travel around, you know that when you go to some hotels in Nigeria, they take your particulars, you know. Those particulars they take is not for nothing. It's under instruction. It's not just to know where you're coming from and all that. It's just so that security forces can monitor who checked in, who is in that hotel, when they came in, when they left, and all that. And if they need to make inquiries, they can say, bring those information, and they check. You know, but who does that? You know, who is monitoring? The internal policemen for immigrants, the immigration service, you only see them at border posts. I don't know how many of them I've seen in hotels. I don't know how many of them I've seen around really checking and monitoring. So, you know, but back to Dubai, or to UAE, we keep calling it Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, they have a system in place to check immigrants very efficiently, you know. And in a way, in any case, your black thing gives you away. So there's no hiding place. So for them to create stringent conditions for us, I don't know. I think we should be the ones now to begin to say to them, look, if you must come here, or if we must do business with you, on our own terms as well. If not, there are alternatives. There's Qatar. There's so many other countries in the Gulf states that are just as, you know, friendly and as, you know, as beautiful as the UAE, which is, I mean, the only real place you can talk about in the UAE is Dubai. You know, we call it as if it's a country. It's just a city. So,
well,
yeah.
Qatar is also a beautiful place, I must say. But, you know, the
Beautiful place.
The UNESCO
Yes.
director on tourism the other day was talking about what he called over-tourism. I think over-tourism. And there are some states in Europe, Amsterdam, for example, in the Netherlands, Venice in Italy, you know, they are now even discouraging people from coming to their country. They are increasing taxes for tourists to say, look, these tourists are too many.
Yeah.
Stay back in your country. Because most of the people who go to those places, they are young people. They bring drugs, they bring violence. Now, Nigeria, we always say, you know, it's a beautiful country. You keep referring to Nigeria as a giant of Africa. Now, why don't we develop all the tourist resources in this country so that, you know, Nigerians probably won't have to go to Dubai. Maybe they can go to Obudukatu Ranch. They can go to Yankari Game Reserve. They can go to Ikongosi. They can go to some other places. What is wrong with us that we are so obsessed with what other people have done for themselves?
I think, Doctor, that our problem is a curse of the black gold. And I say the curse of the black gold because it has made us lazy, complacent. And let me give a recent example. For whatever reason, Ndume said he's not going to the tourist, to chair the tourism committee of the Senate. And maybe the Senate president thought by sending him there, he was punishing him. It's a perception that they have when you talk about tourism, talk about culture. I remember a time that they used to refer to the Ministry of Culture as the Ministry of Clap Clap. It's interesting, you know, but this is a very wrong perception. Nollywood, for instance, has managed to be able to bring itself to a point, music industry to a point where there's a bit of respect right now, all through the strength of and the resilience of the practitioners. You talked about Amsterdam, for instance, right from the airport at Schiphol, which is itself a place where you can just go do shopping and just, you can do enough tourism in the huge airport there before you even go in. It has a reputation for marijuana and hookers, you know, and so a lot of people with that reputation go there, and with backpack, they go to Amsterdam, all, you know, so many people who are wanted and unwanted. So I can understand the over-tourism part, you know, but I wish we had a good problem like that in Nigeria. And it starts from putting the right people in the right place, people who truly believe in tourism, not as compensation, you know, not as, okay, where do we put this? Or you worked for the party, all the big places are gone, but you were a good boy anyway, let's put you there. I will just put a budget for you there and all that. The day we take tourism seriously, and you know the beauty of Nigeria is we have a diverse ecosystem and all sorts, you can see all sorts of things, all sorts of, you know, how do I put it now, opportunities, you know, in this country. There are beaches, in Lagos we have virtually lost all our beaches now, you know, but if you go around, whether it is Port Harcourt or Akwa Ibom, there are places you can still get clean beaches, there are places you can see, you know, what do you call it now, flora and fauna that will, I mean, just, they're a delight to watch, so much, you know, across the country. If we can only develop them. Yankari is all but dead. The zoos in this country are all but dead. You know, I don't know what to say. The only tourism that seems to thrive in this country is religious tourism. And that's because government is not involved in it. You know, that seems to be the old, we lost a huge opportunity of inflow when TB Joshua died. But there are still a few more. When you have major conventions from some of our, you know, big churches and all that. I mean, Saudi Arabia, for instance, enjoys tremendously from religious tourism. That seems to be the only tourism that thrives in Nigeria today. And that's because it's not even driven by government. And so we need to be able to get people who truly believe, you know, in tourism to develop it and begin to see the potentials that are in it.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Victor Okhai, for joining us on This Day Live. I have it on good authority, though, that the zoos that you refer to, that the wildlife in many of those zoos in Nigeria have been converted to pepper soup across the country. So that's one of these problems that we deal with. Well, oh, you know.
I've not been served any yet, but you're an authority, I believe you.
Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Okhai.
Doctor, I believe you.